There is one Republican running for the nomination right now who's willing to call out the obvious grift of MAGA cultists and others that has been perpetrated by Donald Trump, by Jared Kushner, by all the people around Donald Trump. And that one person is obviously No, I'm kidding. It's Chris Christie. Okay. Chris Christie is the one guy that is willing to say a number of different things that are obvious, uncontroversial truths to anybody even remotely connected to reality. But it's only Chris Christie who's willing to say it. Here is Chris Christie on CNN last night saying, what the hell was Jared Kushner doing in the Middle East? What on earth is going on with these grifts and all of these people monetizing their proximity to power, Trump himself? Not a single other Republican candidate is talking about these things. Listen to this.
Let's remember something. He's a billionaire. He's a billionaire, self-professed billionaire. Why can't he use his own money to pay his personal legal fees?
Because he's cheap.
And not use money coming from the public. It's disgraceful. And it's a continued grift. And look, the Trump family has been involved in grifting for quite some time.
Yep.
He was doing this in terms of the people who got paid out of this PAC before, whether it was Kimberly Guilfoyle or other.
The Trump charity. I mean, there's no end to the grift.
Members of the family. Jared Kushner, 6 months after he leaves the White House, gets $2 billion from the Saudi sovereign wealth fund.
Yep.
When
haven't heard Ron DeSanctimonious talking about that.
Trump had put him in a position to be in the Middle East. What was Jared Kushner doing in the Middle East?
Better late than never, folks.
We had Rex Tillerson and Mike Pompeo as secretaries of state. We didn't need Jared Kushner. He was put there to make those relationships, and then he cashed in on those relationships when he left the office. So what Donald Trump's doing now is just a continuation of what he's permitted his family to do.
And to be clear, what Chris Christie's talking about is that Trump is now fundraising for a legal defense fund for all of these different cases, for all these different indictments that he's facing. And Chris Christie is saying, why does he need to fundraise for that? He's so rich.
Over the entire course of his time as president.
Why do you think he's not using his own money to pay for his legal fees?
Because he's the cheapest person I've ever met in my life. That's why. And what he's very good at, Caitlin, is spending other people's money.
Right.
And if you look at his history in New Jersey,
and you think he's misleading his voters, his supporters by...
Well, I think those supporters, write a check to Trump for president. They think they're paying for campaign expenses, not for personal legal expenses.
Now, in Trump's defense, I don't even know that it's a Trump defense. There are cultists so deep in the cult that they are glad to pay for Trump's legal defense because they believe that the indictments are political, that it's actually Joe Biden doing it and all these different things. So I think Chris Christie is right that there are some Trump donors who think the money's being used for the campaign. There are some who know it's being used for the legal defense and are fine with that. And there are those who are in this position where they believe that the legal defense is kind of part of the campaign because the indictments are part of the campaign against Trump, which is there's no evidence of that whatsoever. Chris Christie was a defender of Trump for a long time. And for that, I think he deserves to be criticized. At least he is saying this stuff now, and no other Republican running in that primary is willing to do it. Here is Chris Christie. Also, most of them won't talk about January 6th in these terms either. But even Mike Pence won't talk about January 6th in these terms. And they wanted to kill Pence. But Chris Christie will talk about it. Good for him.
People were killed.
Not exactly a strong statement.
People were killed, Caitlin, as you know, that day on Capitol Hill defending the Capitol. We had members of Congress who were running for their lives. We had people trying to hunt down the vice president of the United States chanting, "Hang Mike Pence."
Right.
And Donald Trump the entire time sat outside the Oval Office in that little dining room of his, eating a well-done cheeseburger and watching TV and doing nothing to stop what was going on until it got to the point where even he could no longer stand it. And he finally, at 4-something in the afternoon, put out a video asking people to leave the Capitol. And Ron DeSantis doesn't have any opinion on that. Look, I know, by the way, I'm pretty sure I know who that high school student was. He goes to every town hall meeting in New Hampshire. He's been to 3 of mine, and he asks really tough questions. And I said to him, the last time I had a town hall meeting, he was out of mine, see if any of the candidates will answer your questions directly and grade them on it.
They won't. They won't. So listen, again, we don't have to now rehabilitate Chris Christie into some hero. It is a very useful thing to see a Republican drop some truth bombs on Magats or Magadonians or Magapotamians. I think that is a good thing. Chris Christie was complicit in the Trump nonsense for years. He stood behind Trump and endorsed him and the entire thing. And for that, he deserves our criticism. And now he is the only guy running in this primary who's willing to say some of these things. And so we can praise that. Here's one more clip about the January 6th stuff.
If he asked you that question, how would you answer it?
I would say it was one of the most disgraceful days in American history, and that the president was principally responsible for it.
Right.
One,
not a single other Republican is willing to say that.
Through the conduct and his words from election night forward, inciting people and insisting that the election was stolen when it wasn't. Through his speech that day, when he attacked directly his own vice president and incited those people to be angry at Mike Pence, who was just performing his constitutional duty, and he had no choice. And every lawyer, good lawyer, had told people that he couldn't do anything different than that. And then while the event was going on, while the riot was going on Capitol Hill, we know that Donald Trump was watching it and was being urged by even members of his own family to get out there and say something. And he refused because he was enjoying watching people yell, scream, and destroy things in his name.
This is all undeniably true, and Trump will never admit it and insists that it's fake news. Chris Christie holding steady at 2.5% in the Republican primary, the only guy willing to tell these what should be uncontroversial truths. And if I had to choose from the current Republican slate who is the next president, without a doubt, it would be Chris Christie. One of our sponsors today is Replace Your Mortgage. Mortgages are a really interesting thing in the United States. The poor often can't afford them, and the rich often don't use them. Instead, the wealthy use special financial tools to pay off their debts, often in a fraction of the time that it takes for a middle-class American to realize that same payoff. Replace Your Mortgage teaches you how you can pay off your home in 5 to 7 years without needing to make more money than you're currently making right now. And in addition, they can teach you how to better utilize your existing assets and equity to begin or continue growing wealth and passive income through additional strategies. And they actually have an upcoming workshop that will show you how you can take advantage of these strategies, how it all works, create your own economy in a sense. You can go to replaceyouruniversity.com/Pacman to watch the interview I did with their founder, Michael Lush, to learn how you can get exclusive access to what can be a life-changing virtual event. The link is in the description.